What if the man you crossed the entire country to marry didn't want you? What if the wilderness was colder than rejection, and the law wanted you dead? This is not a love story born from promises. It's a story forged in snow, silence, and survival. Backhand index pointing right, stay until the end, because one decision inside a sheriff's office will change everything. Backhand index pointing right, you're watching Frontier Tales, where the Old West still breathes. The iron train screamed as it slowed, metal wheels grinding against frozen rails, until it finally shuddered to a stop in the middle of nowhere. Snow covered everything, the ground, the rooftops, the distant hills, a white emptiness so vast it seemed to swallow sound itself. This was the Wyoming Territory. The end of the line. Clara Beaumont stepped down from the train clutching a worn carpet bag, her fingers stiff with cold and fear. Inside that bag was her entire life, 2 plain dresses folded tight, a Bible with loose pages marked by years of quiet prayer, a bar of soap wrapped in paper, and 79 cents sewn into the lining. That was all that remained of Philadelphia. Of certainty. Of safety. She had traveled nearly 2,000 miles for one fragile promise, a marriage advertisement signed with the name Caleb Rourke. A rancher seeking a wife. A chance to start again. But the platform was empty. No man waiting. No flowers. No sign of recognition. Only wind cutting across the tracks and the lonely creak of the station boards. Minutes stretched into something heavy and humiliating. Clara's breath fogged the air as hope slowly bled out of her chest. Then she heard it, the crunch of wagon wheels over ice. A buckboard emerged through the snowfall, pulled by 2 broad-shouldered horses. The man driving it sat tall and rigid, his coat dusted white, his face marked by old scars and harder years. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. His gray eyes swept the platform once, then stopped on her. And hardened. This was no groom. This was a man shaped by loss. "Mr. Rourke?" Clara asked, her voice barely steady. He looked at her like she was a problem he hadn't planned for. "I am." She offered the letter, her fingers trembling. He didn't take it right away. His gaze lingered on her face, not with interest, but disbelief. Something close to anger flickered beneath the surface. "You're alone," he said flatly. "Yes, sir." He turned away, jaw tightening, pressing his forehead briefly against one of the horses as if bracing himself. When he faced her again, the truth landed like a slap. "I didn't place that advertisement," he said. "My brother did." The words didn't sink in at first. Then they did, slowly, painfully. His younger brother. Dead. Shot by cattle thieves weeks before Clara ever boarded the train. She had crossed the country to marry a man already buried. Caleb didn't apologize. He didn't soften his voice. "Get in the wagon," he ordered. "Storm's coming." The town watched as she climbed in, men pausing in doorways, eyes following her like judgment made flesh. She felt stripped bare without a single word spoken. Caleb drove without speaking, deeper and deeper into the white wilderness, until civilization vanished entirely. The ranch appeared like a lonely wound in the snow, a small cabin, a barn, and nothing else for miles. Inside, the fire burned low. The truth finished breaking her. "There'll be no wedding," Caleb said. "When the storm clears, I'll take you back." Clara nodded, swallowing what little hope she had left. Outside, the wind rose to a howl. The storm did not clear. Instead, it closed in, sealing the cabin, the land, and their fates together. 2 strangers. 1 lie. And a future neither of them had chosen. Theme reinforced, survival begins the moment hope dies. The blizzard came down like a prison gate. By morning, the ranch was gone beneath the snow. Drifts climbed the cabin walls, sealing doors and windows in white. The wind screamed through the valley without rest, howling like something alive, something angry. There would be no leaving. No turning back. Winter had decided for them. Caleb rose before dawn each day, moving through the cabin like a shadow. He spoke only when necessary, his words short and rough. He kept his coat on even inside, as if ready to leave at a moment's notice, though they both knew he couldn't. Outside, he fought the storm alone, breaking ice at the trough, forcing open the barn doors, tending animals with hands cracked and bleeding from the cold. Clara watched him return each time soaked, frozen, and silent. She refused to be invisible. She cooked what little they had, stretching meals with care and quiet skill. She swept, mended, kept the fire alive. When the water bucket ran low, she reached for it without asking. Their hands brushed for the first time, just a brief touch. Caleb flinched. He pulled away as if burned, his face hardening, eyes dropping to the floor. It wasn't anger. Clara saw that. It was fear, sharp and unguarded. Fear of caring. Fear of crossing a line he didn't trust himself to uncross. The silence between them shifted after that. It grew less sharp. Less heavy. Clara worked beside him now, hauling water in air so cold it stung her lungs. She chopped wood until her arms trembled. She faced the land without complaint, without tears. Caleb began to notice the way she stood, spine straight, chin lifted, even when exhaustion crept into her bones. She wasn't fragile. She was forged. One night, long after the wind had rattled the cabin into uneasy quiet, a scream tore through the dark. Clara bolted upright, gasping, clawing at the blankets as if drowning. Her eyes were wild, lost in a past she never spoke of. Caleb was at her side in seconds, gripping her shoulders, calling her name until she heard him. When she finally stilled, the firelight revealed what the darkness had hidden. Scars. Deep. Twisted. Deliberate. They crossed her back like a map of cruelty, not accidents, not the work of nature, but the marks of men who had chosen to hurt and never stopped. Caleb went very still. He had known violence. He had lived it. But this was something else. His jaw clenched, anger burning slow and dangerous, not at her, not at fate, but at the unseen hands that had done this. "I won't let anyone touch you here," he said quietly. Not ever. It was not a promise made lightly. From that night on, Caleb slept less. He kept watch while she rested. He listened to the wind. He guarded the doors. Not because he had to. Because he chose to. And for the first time since stepping off the train, Clara slept without fear. The storm loosened its grip reluctantly, like a beast unwilling to release its prey. The wind softened. The snow stopped falling. But the land remained dangerous, brittle with ice, silent with hidden threats. Danger came without warning. Clara was in the barn when it happened, moving too quickly, trying to help. A rope snapped loose, and the cow panicked, eyes wild, hooves striking wood and air. One wrong step and Clara was slammed against the wall, the breath knocked from her lungs. "Get back!" Caleb shouted. He crossed the distance in seconds, shoving her clear as the animal surged past, missing her by inches. His hands gripped her arms, shaking, not with anger, but terror. "You could have been killed," he said, his voice raw. "Out here, one mistake is all it takes." Clara pulled free, shaken but alive. "I'm not made of glass," she said softly. Caleb didn't answer. He just nodded once, as if forcing himself to accept a truth he could no longer deny. Later that afternoon, the barn betrayed them again. Caleb was repairing a rotted beam in the loft when the ladder slipped. The beam cracked loose, groaning as it fell. Clara looked up just in time to see it dropping straight toward her. "Move!" Caleb yelled. She slipped in the straw. Caleb didn't think. He jumped. The beam crashed where they had been standing, splintering the floor as they rolled clear. They landed hard in the hay, tangled together, hearts slamming like runaway horses. Dust filled the air. For a moment, neither of them moved. "Are you hurt?" Caleb whispered. "No," Clara breathed. "You saved me." They stayed there, too close, the world narrowed to shared breath and racing hearts. Caleb's hand lifted, stopping just short of her face. And fear surged through her. Please, she whispered, voice breaking. Don't hurt me. Caleb froze. Whatever he might have been feeling died in that instant. He pulled away, stood, and turned his back to her completely. No anger. No frustration. Only restraint so sharp it cut. I would never hurt you, he said quietly. Not ever. Then he left the barn. That moment defined him. He didn't take. He didn't push. He chose distance when it mattered most. And Clara understood something that changed her forever. This man was different. From that day on, something gentler grew between them. Not passion. Not promises. Just presence. They worked side by side. Ate meals in easy quiet. Shared glances that held meaning without demand. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt safe. But the frontier never allowed peace to last. One morning, a stranger rode up the trail. His eyes were pale and calculating. His smile knew her name before she spoke it. A bounty hunter. He held a folded paper. A lie printed in ink. A reward offered for her capture. The past Clara had fled now stood on the porch. Waiting. Theme reinforced, love is proven by restraint, not desire. Caleb stepped onto the porch with his rifle already raised. The bounty hunter didn't smile this time. I got a lawful claim, the man said calmly, tapping the folded paper in his coat. Girl's worth good money. You take one more step, Caleb said, voice low and deadly, and you won't leave this valley. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind sliding over snow. The bounty hunter measured him, then backed away, mounting his horse with a thin, bitter grin. This ain't over, he warned. They'll all hear about it. He rode off, but peace did not return with him. Inside the cabin, Clara stood shaking. Her eyes weren't on the door. They were on the drawer Caleb had forgotten to lock. She opened it slowly. The paper inside burned. Her face. Her name. Wanted. Accused of theft she did not commit. A reward stamped in bold ink. Caleb went still behind her. You knew, she whispered. He didn't answer fast enough. You knew who I was, she said again, her voice cracking. From the beginning. I was going to tell you, he said, stepping toward her. You let me believe you saw me, she said, tears spilling now. But I was just something you were managing. A secret in a drawer. Her heartbreak was sharp and final. That night, Clara packed her bag. Before dawn, she walked alone into the mud and cold, every step heavier than the last. 5 brutal hours to town. No horse. No coat fit for the weather. Just dignity holding her upright when fear tried to drag her down. At the marshal's office, she stood straight. My name is Clara Beaumont, she said hoarsely. I'm turning myself in. The chains never touched her wrists. The door burst open. Caleb came in like a storm-given flesh. He slammed the bounty hunter into the desk before anyone could react. Get your hands off my wife, he roared. The room went silent. Caleb threw papers onto the desk, a marriage certificate, signed, witnessed, sealed weeks earlier. A lie. A dangerous, reckless lie. The judge arrived, studied the documents, then the warrant. In the eyes of the law, he said slowly, Clara Beaumont no longer exists. The paper was torn in half. Caleb had risked everything, his land, his freedom, his life. And Clara stood there, staring at him, unsure whether to run, or believe. Theme reinforced, sometimes the truth is less powerful than the choice to stand. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Not the sharp, cutting silence of before, but something softer. Fragile. Like a wound just beginning to close. Snow drifted across the trail as Caleb guided the wagon home. He didn't reach for Clara's hand. He didn't speak until the cabin came into view, its chimney smoking gently against the gray sky. Inside, the fire was still alive. Caleb stood near the hearth, hat in his hands, shoulders heavy with everything he hadn't said. "I didn't lie to trap you," he finally said. "I lied because I couldn't lose you. Not after I saw who you really were." Clara studied him for a long moment. Then she set her bag down. "I'm staying," she said. "Not because I have nowhere else to go, but because I choose you." The words settled between them like a promise. Seasons turned. Spring broke the snow's grip. Clara planted a small garden by the cabin, her hands deep in living soil. She filled the shelves with books, brought warmth into corners that had only known silence. Travelers stopped by. Neighbors came. Respect replaced curiosity. The ranch changed, and so did they. They were no longer a fugitive and a widower. No longer strangers bound by a mistake. They were partners. When winter returned, it tested them again. The wind howled. Snow buried the trail. But inside the cabin, the fire burned bright. Clara mended Caleb's coat as he pulled her close, both of them steady in the storm's roar. Two broken souls. One chosen future. Would you forgive a lie if it saved your life, or would trust be broken forever? If you believe the Old West was built on hard choices and harder hearts, subscribe to Frontier Tales, where survival becomes legend.